Hi everyone, this is issue 26 of the Build the Millennium Falcon series. I'm a little bit behind still because of the move, plus I missed this episode, so I had 27, 28 etc, but I missed this one and had to back order it. It's because everything was so busy with the house really. So anyway, I'm up and running now. The shed now has power, so I can get spraying again, and I've got lights and all the stuff I need, so we're back in business. So I'll go and get this unpacked and we'll have a look and we'll see what we're doing, and I'll be back shortly. Okay, here we go. So we've got a bit more of our support jig. We've got some feet for it. We've got some more bits and pieces, some more screws, usual paperwork. Aha! We've got some more hole plating. And we've got some more hole framework. More screws, and right, okay, so this is obviously flooring, and this walkways maybe? Yeah, that looks like that could be a walkway of some description to me. So yeah, don't know, just playing around, I don't really know. Let's have a look, shall we? So let's see what we've got this week. Oh, okay, some information about the new Ballon B frigates. That would be an interesting model to build, wouldn't it? Right, okay, so just the usual bit of back history. Oh, creatures and things. Right, come on, let's get to the interesting stuff. Would be fun if D'Agostini brought out some of these other models in years to come after the Falcon, but somehow I think it would get a bit expensive if they started doing all sorts. Right, okay, so here's where we caught up with last time, because we built some of these internal panels. Oh, okay, so it's internal walls and corridors, which is going to fit into this. Not even sure where it is, but that's what we're about to build apparently. So I shall go and get the bits and pieces, and be back shortly. Talk to you in a bit. Okay, so this is where we're going to create this little access tunnel. So we've got the 4 walls that we did last time on the last video. Thankfully not all stuck to the desk anymore, and this looks like a fairly simple assembly. We've got the instructions here, so basically we're just going to assemble this, and we should come up with something that looks roughly like that. I still can't think where it goes, but we'll find out soon enough. So I'll come back to you in a few minutes. Basically it's just the same as usual. I'm going to be using the super glue because of the fact that most of this model is built out of resin and not plastic. Usual things apply. Right, okay, so I'll be back shortly. Now, if you remember from the last video, I was saying that some of these, that and that are pretty much the same shape, and that and that are pretty much the same shape, but different ways round, and it can be easy to mix them up. So I haven't glued anything yet, but I've just dry fitted them, and I think this is probably the best way of doing it. Just dry fit them, make sure they all fit together. Obviously those walls in the centre are going to butt up against each other, and then we're going to have the ceiling, which is going to fit over the top, and without checking first, I'm assuming something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and glue those. So I would advise just dry fit them before you actually start gluing, just in case, like me, you pick them up the wrong way around. It's easily done. And I'll come back in a moment, but that should then provide us with our little access tunnel. Okay, although we got some interesting bits and pieces in issue 26, there's really very little done. Just that tiny little access corridor. I've got a bit too much glue on it. I'm going to have to file that down and neaten it up, but I'm pretty sure we're not going to see any of those. All we're really interested in is the corridor walkway, passageway. Not quite sure even where it goes, but anyway, now the next one I think is going to get interesting, because on the next one I'm thinking is when we're going to put all this together. Now, as another little revelation I'm going to make, I've actually taken all the hole plating off the Falcon that I'd put on initially. You may remember I've been building it up as the issues suggest, but I've also been jumping ahead a bit and working out where the bits go that they don't tell us, and sort of jump ahead a little bit. But I've decided to take all the plating off. I'm going to prime the inside. I'm going to coat it so that we've got some light blocking as well. Still not sure what I'm going to do on the outside, but it's definitely going to be painted inside, because I think this is going to be good enough to warrant some additional modifications. We're going to put some additional lighting in it as well as we get nearer the end, to try and make it a little bit more interesting than it already is, and it's pretty good as it is, obviously. So I think that's probably it for number 26. I shall go and, as I've got the next few ones already, I'm going to go and make a start on issue 27, and I'm pretty sure that's when it starts to get a bit more interesting for a while. Talk to you later. Bye. Okay, issue 27 time. So we got, I think that's now going to virtually complete the assembly jig. Now I've actually got here a few more, and that one's very interesting. That's issue 29, and that massive ring is going to be the support for the centre here, which is starting to get interesting. So let's get on with this one. I'll unpack it and we'll see what we're doing on issue number 27. Right then, yes, issue 27 is where things start to get interesting, because we've got a bit more internals, a bit more framework, a bit more plating, but we get another bit of this base, which you see I've started to go ahead a little bit previously, and that's what we're going to effectively mount that on. So we're going to do this first. So we've got some internal corridor to do again, and then we're going to look at putting some more framework together, and then we're going to make this properly. We're going to put this together so that we've got the assembly jig to support the whole assembly as we're putting it together. So yes, it's framework time again, which is the bit I enjoy a bit more than these little bits. Anyway, right, I'm going to take these out to the shed, and we'll start going through issue number 27. Okay, we've got lots of goodies on this one, but I think we're going to make a start with the internal corridors again. We've got some more cushions to assemble like we did previously. Not sure where the floor is for that. I'm sure there should be a floor for that. It doesn't seem to be in... I bet it's that we were given earlier. So, okay, right, well, time to read the instructions. Back shortly. Right, the first stage is to join the flooring to the corridor base. We're using 4 of the shorter self-tapping screws. Don't worry if you lose one, they've given us 5. Try not to lose them obviously, but at least there is a spare. I tend to buy the odd issue a bit early as well, although I've subscribed, so I'm keeping a bit of a supply of spares anyway. But yeah, so just pop that in, but it's the shorter of the self-tappers. You get quite a few different packs of screws with this one, and then it's time to fit the cushions, which we'll do next. In the same way that we did the cushions on all the other corridors, this just is a continuation of the same thing. So I'm using some very flat edged cutters, for those of you who haven't seen the earlier issues, just to snip them off the sprue. The instructions tell you which cushions we're using this time. Clean anything up if there's any little marks left over from the sprue with, I'm using a very sharp hobby knife, or you can use a little bit of sandpaper or wet and dry or something, and that's just a very, very quick and easy stage to get that part of the corridor together. So now we're getting on to the other part for this issue, which is framework. So I'm going to go and grab that, and we'll get these last few pieces put in, and I'll be back shortly. Right, interesting point. By this time, this is the screwdriver that came with the original kit with issue number 1. Now, I don't suppose I can focus on that on this camera. Where's it gone? Where's it gone? Where's it gone? But I don't know if you can see the end there, but the end is getting very worn, and it's no longer the correct shape, and it's not tightening these very well. So maybe I've just been a little uncareful, but it's time to switch over to a proper screwdriver. This is much tougher and is going to last. Now this fits perfectly, so if you're going to do, if any of you have experienced what I have with this, with the screwdriver not working very well anymore because it's worn out, Just make sure you've got the right one. You're not going to want to damage any of these heads, but this gets these a heck of a lot tighter than that thing does now. That thing is now unfortunately useless. So this is going to be the one from now on. So yeah, just notice when I was building these ribs, it's not quite the same as it was, so just something to bear in mind. Okay, yeah, I get a much better result when using this driver. The only thing I'm going to miss is that was magnetised, so it's really handy to pick up the little tiny screws. That isn't, but it will get them a lot tighter. I'm going to go back actually and tighten most of these, because it's actually got, you know, it's been sitting around for a few months now and it's been moved around, and there's a little bit of play in some of them, so they need tightening. I'm wondering, now I don't know if I've missed this in the instructions, but I can't help thinking we should be putting some thread lock on these. Where we've got screws going into the aluminium brackets, I think we should have some thread lock on them so they don't work loose in the future. I'm going to go back and have a look, but if any of you have noticed it in the instructions and I've missed it, please feel free to pop it in the comments. But don't know what any of you guys think, but I think these should be thread locked. One little tip I just noticed is, if you're like me, finding that this driver is not very good anymore for tightening them up, and you're using a substitute, but you're missing the magnetised screwdriver, unless you've got any others of course, I'm using this to pick them out of the tray and get them in position and get them started, and then I'm just tightening them up with the other driver. So just a little tip to make do with what you've got, unless you've got another driver that's the right size and magnetic. Moving on to the assembly jig, the instructions recommend that you get a big piece of board and you effectively put the jig together on that and keep it together. So what I've done is I've bought or rather I had a largish sheet of plywood, funny enough the exact same stuff that they used for all the plating on the full-size Falcon when they made it. It was just made out of plywood. But what I've done is I've put from B&Q some little foam feet on it, as you can see there, so I don't scratch the furniture. So that's suspended on little feet, so it won't do any damage. And then when you assemble the jig, which I've made a start on here, you've got a base for it, but you're not going to get moaned at for scratching the furniture. Or you're not going to moan at yourself for scratching your own furniture. So yeah, so what I'm doing now is basically just catching up with or letting the instructions catch up with me, because I went ahead and did this last week, and just positioning them, putting them together. You can work it out, the instructions will show you, but basically this is the front here. You've got the two boarding tunnels there, and there's half of one there, and then you'll see these indentations. This is the front landing pads 1 and 2, and then the larger flatter area of course is going to be to support the underside of the engine compartment. So that's the way it all goes together. I'm just going to put the rest of these little pads on now, and then I'll be caught up to that stage there. Okay, now I might be missing a foot here, or a little pad, but other than that, that's done, and that takes us to the end of issue number 27. So I'll catch up with you shortly with issue 28. There was one thing that I don't think I put in the video, is that towards the end of issue 27 we've built this rib. We've put these 3 panels in, but we've now just got to add this rib just to strengthen it up, as it's already pre-built. So I'm going to do that now, and then you can see the result. Okay, and that really does take us to the end of issue number 27. So I'll be back shortly with the next issue. Hi there, it's time for issue number 28 on the Build the Millennium Falcon series. Already opened the outer package. We've got usual deal really, some hull plating, some hull framework, and some internal corridor work. And unfortunately, I thought we'd seen all of these. I hate doing these things. These are the little cushions for the cushioned archways, but there we go. It's all part and parcel of the model. So I'll make a start and I'll be back soon. Okay, so issue 28, or stage 28, is basically about finishing off some more of the internal corridors. This is the little short corridor and access panel, or access corridor I should say, passage that leads through to the quad cannons. The short tube we're doing is just this here that's going to run into the where the sleeping quarters would be, if they were going to go that far. So yeah, so this is very much stuff that we've done before, so I won't bore you with too much of the detail. We're just cutting, cleaning, gluing, etc. This is the slightly annoying one, is doing this. There's so many pieces involved, but we've done so many now, we only need to do a few more and we'll be done. So that's it. Going to be for that one, so I'll make a start. Any points that are important to mention, I'll let you know if there's any problems or anything, but I'll check back shortly. When you get onto pad number 2, it's a bit like the earlier corridors we did. It's supposed to overlap, it's supposed to overhang, so you have a gap between the cushions. So no, it does actually show it quite close there with hardly any gap, but I got caught out by that earlier on in the build, and there was a couple of cushions when I fitted too close together, so I think there should be a gap there. So I fitted that pretty much halfway along the edge. I'll show you like that. In case you didn't see the earlier SUs or episodes where I was making these cushioned corridor arches, I found the best way to do it is get yourself a container like this. This is a way of doing it fairly quickly but safely. So get a container like this, snip them all down one edge with a pair of cutters, good flat back cutters, on all 3 or 4 rows, 3 rows. Turn it around, snip down all of the other sides, and just snip them so that they fall into this little container. Now you'll find that when you do that, they'll have a little tiny bit of, where's it gone? A little tiny bit of a burr on the edge, but it's quite fiddly to deal with now. So what I've found is if you just glue them all onto the ring, a little dab of super glue on each one, and you get it to this stage, so you build it up like that, and then you can just sand the edge while it's all together. It's so much quicker and easier. So you probably worked that out for yourselves already, but if not, and if you may remember from my earlier video, but if not, that's a really good time saving and hassle saving tip. Right, that method does give you a very nice easy way of assembling this very quickly, yet without having to spend ages cleaning up each of those pieces individually. Just stick them all on and clean it up as one piece, and you can even get a piece of sandpaper and just rub the whole thing against it. It's just to take those little burrs off the edges, but that's it. So that's the corridor complete. It looks like we're just going to assemble that now, and that'll be that short piece of corridor assembled. Now it does say to keep an eye on that top notch, and we went through this before with the other corridors. There is a notch on one of these, but because there is an even number of pads, not an odd number, this is not in the center, so that can be assembled the wrong way around. So I've just put that together just to dry fit it before I glue it. You see, if you put it in the wrong way, you see the notch at the top there. If I put it in that way, it's slightly to the left. If we put it around that way, it's slightly to the right. It needs to be lined up correctly. It's because it's not dead center of the roof. So just make sure you dry fit it, make sure everything's okay before you go and glue it. The final important thing is basically just to say don't glue this together yet, because there's still more parts to come. It does warn you in the book, but for now all we're doing is we're just going to test fit them together, and then the O-ring is going to fit over as it did on the earlier corridors. And we're not gluing them yet, we're just putting that on just to hold it in place, and that's pretty much what we should have. It's not quite sitting down, but it's not glued yet. Okay, and that's basically it for the internal corridors, he says, as he's still fiddling trying to get it to fit better. There we go. There we go, yeah, that fits better now down the side. So that's another piece of internal corridor ready and waiting to go on. We'll be gluing it up later though, so yeah, don't glue it now, because it says we've got some more stuff to come, and we might regret it if we do. Okay, so at the end of this issue 28, it says not to glue all this stuff together yet, but it does say to test fit it, so we get an idea of how it all fits. So this is the internals as we have them at the moment. So we've got the main hold, we've got the corridor off to what would be the cabin section, the sleeping section. We've got the corridor around to the well-known access tube that goes to the cockpit, and then we've got the small corridor that goes into the quad cannons. So you can get an idea now how we can see inside this thing as it's starting to build up. You can see quite a bit of detail from pretty much every angle. I don't know if we can see much looking back through here. Let's give it a go. Yeah, not really. You see a little bit. You can see quite a bit through the door there. So yeah, so you get an idea how it's all coming on. So this is the inside of the Falcon build, pretty much up to date now. Not sure how much. I think that's pretty much it. There might be something to end this. There's a sort of gaping hole at the back of this. I'm assuming there's going to be an end piece to that, and maybe an end piece to that. Not sure yet. But it gives us a pretty good idea as we look in from above, because there's going to be a removable panel on the top of the hull. Okay, that's it for now. Interesting actually in this episode, or this issue, that we see they did actually have some of the internals set for the Falcon for Return of the Jedi, but unfortunately they never used it. It all ended up on the editing room floor, as they say. So a bit of a shame we didn't see more of the Falcon. It's always good to see the Falcon. Anyway, that's it for issue 28. I'll see you for the next one. Take care. Hi everyone, it's time for issue number 29 on the Build the Millennium Falcon series by Agostini. I'm going to open this up and see what we're doing this week, but just before I do, I had a sneak peek earlier. Look at this. This is a big support ring which is for the base of the framework so far, so that's going to add a lot of rigidity to the structure. This is a heavy piece actually, so there's a lot of weight going to be held by that, and it's going to tie the whole thing together, so I've been looking forward to this piece. Okay, I'm going to make a start. I'll be back shortly. Right, so our turret ring we've got here now, and this is going to start to make the whole thing a lot more solid. Basically we've got a little notch here, and you've got a notch in an earlier part, number BF32, which is bottom frame 32, and all we've got to do is line that up so that that rests into that notch there, and then it's just a case of popping the screws in all the way around, which I shall do right now, and this is going to really start to hold the thing together. Okay, just had to figure something out for myself. I had to go back to the instructions. There are, in the end of the ribs that we assembled earlier, there's a little keyed shape at the end of these, and there's a notch here, and basically when you put them together, if you don't get that notch lined up perfectly straight, you'll have, like I've got here, this piece is sitting ever so slightly higher than this piece, whereas those two are flat and those two are flat and even all the way around. So obviously if those aren't flat and level, then the plating's not going to go on flat and level, but that one there, I think it is, there's a little step up, so make sure that the rib underneath is in the notch, and then it will all pull down nice and tightly. If you find it's not pulling down tightly, it's because the rib isn't lined up. Okay, once that's all done and you get to the end of issue 29 or stage 29, the turret ring is now in place and it's firmly fitted to the rest of the framework, and that gives you an idea. It should all fit nice, and this should all be nice and smooth. They should all sit down. If you find they don't, as I said earlier, just check that the rib underneath So that's this support rib goes into a little notch, which you can see there, just between the two screws. There's a little notch. That's where the ribs sit. If you don't do that, then one joint will sit proud and it will stick up compared to the next one, and no amount of over tightening the screw will help. All you'll do is just ruin the screw heads. So yeah, it took me a couple of minutes to work that one out. So a really good tip there, just make sure all of your ribs go in. That is that bit there. It does say, to be fair to D'Agostini, it does say make sure the ends of the ribs are located in the notches under the joints, and it is very, very important, otherwise the whole thing will be lopsided and won't fit together. So as long as you get that bit right, the rest of it's easy. And then it basically says to return it to the assembly jig for support, which I shall do, and I'll give you a last shot, and then that's it for the end of issue 29. Okay, so that's it. This is end of issue 29. We've got the turret support ring in. It's now offering a lot more stability to the rest of the build, and you can probably really start to see that it's taking shape. It's turning into the Millennium Falcon. That's about it for now. So that's up to issue 29. I'll put all these videos, I've done a few today, so I'll put them all together, see how long they end up. I might split them up or just put one long one together. We'll see. But thanks for watching. I hope it's been of some help. Hopefully those couple of little things I learnt about these ribs being in place and lining up because the frames didn't want to pull down properly, hopefully that will help you if you've watched this before you actually get to assemble yours. I'm hoping that will save you a bit of the grief that I just had when I had to work it out. Okay, thanks for watching again. I hope it's helpful, and I'll catch you next time. Take care.